Welcome to MMA Heat, the show that is all about heart, endurance, aggression, and technique in MMA and in entertainment. I'm Karyn Bryant, coming to you from the PKG Training Center in LA, and here's what's in store. You guys are going to get to meet the man Joe Rogan calls the babysitter to the stars. He's the one and only UFC talent coordinator, Burt Watson. You're also going to hear how UFC lightweight Kamal Shalorus is reinventing himself after fighting in the WEC, and Rashad Evans' mental coach, Al Fuentes, is going to show us how to get our brains right before a fight. But first, we're going to go take a bath with Kyle Kingsbury. This guy is an Arizona State alum, and you may remember him from Season 8 of The Ultimate Fighter. At UFC 126, he scored a 21-second TKO over Ricardo Romero, and he invited us to his mom's house hours before he got on the scales for UFC 139 and showed us his weight-cutting technique for getting his 6'4" frame down to 205 pounds. Kyle, how much weight do you have to go? And we're a few hours out from weigh-in. We're about 4 hours out, so how far do you have to go?
Well, I only got another 9 pounds to lose to get me to 208. Then I'll throw on a sauna suit, get the sweats on, and just let it relax, let it come out that way for the next few hours while we wait around and just kind of hang out there at the Shark Tank waiting to get on stage.
Nice. And so exactly what are we doing here? Obviously, this is a tub. How hot is it? How long have you been in this morning?
It's pretty hot. We've spent about 15 minutes in there. We got Epsom salt. And that's about it. Hot water and Epsom salt does the trick for me. I can lose about 8 pounds in an hour. And I got 9 to go, so I'll probably stay in for an hour and 10 and call it a day.
How long have you been doing this in terms of cutting weight this aggressively? Oh, here comes Mom. I know. Come on in, Mom. How are you?
Oh, I thought he is in
No, he's... I told him I wouldn't look. I'm keeping the eyes up, Mom. I'm keeping the eyes up.
I'm the husband.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, Kyle didn't marry a man. But anyway, it's California. What the hell?
Get the hell out of here, Ma. What are you doing? Give me some meatloaf.
You want meatloaf?
No, that was a joke.
Okay.
Movie reference. All right, Ma.
This is great. Your mom's a great sport about this. She's been obviously a supporter of your athletics for years and years. Yeah.
Years and years since I was 9 playing football. Mom's always had my back.
Nice, very nice. So yeah, so how long have you been doing this? Let's get back to that question in terms of cutting weight. I know you played football, but you also were a wrestler, right? So how many years has it taken you to perfect this method?
Well, I first started having to cut weight when I was 10 for Pop Warner football, and we'd weigh in that same day. But it was only a couple pounds. Now, obviously, when I started fighting, I fought as heavyweight, so I really didn't have to worry about cuts. And then when I got to AKA, Bobby Southworth, an old teammate of mine, took me under his wing. He was like, dude, you get to 230, we can get you to 205. And I was like, no way. And he said, I cut from 240. And so he really, mentored me and showed me a lot about weight cutting. And from there, I kind of added some of my own tricks. And Krzysztof Zasinski taught me a little bit about it as well. And finally, working with Victor Conti has really paid off because he's, showed me a lot of the science behind how to take it off and how to put it back on properly.
Man, it's so interesting because to me, it's stunning that somebody can walk around 15 pounds heavier, the day before and cut it. But it really is as simple as water.
Oh, it is. It is that simple. It's about knowing your body too. I've trained myself to get used to this. So every Sunday I come over to Mom's. I do a practice weight cut where I'll drop 8 to 10 pounds, put it back on, and then spar hard Monday. So my body gets used to that, taking something off, putting it back in, and then going hard the next day. And now when I get to the weight cut day, water comes off easy. I put it back on easy, and I go out there and put on a good show.
So when you walk around then, when you're not fighting, you don't have one upcoming, how big are you?
I'm about 230 when I'm walking around. If I fatten up, I can get up to 245. But in shape, 230. I'll lean down to 225 and cut from there. So it's been about a 20-pound cut all in all by the time I get on the scale.
Yeah, I have to say you're lucky. I feel bad for the guys on the card right after Thanksgiving. Good timing, my friend. Perfect
timing. I was complaining I didn't get to go out and party with my friends on Halloween. Obviously all the ladies like to wear a little bit on Halloween, but the fact that I get to have Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas dinner, that more than makes up for it.
Absolutely. Now, do you need to get back in, or are you okay? Okay, here, I'll let you slide down. I know you don't want to look past Stefan, but are there people that you want to fight in your aspirations to climb the ladder and make a name off of knocking out this guy, knocking out that guy?
Nobody. Seriously, it's funny. You come from a college football background where you've got however many 11-game schedule, 12-game schedule, whatever, your schedule's set. And your coach sticks it in your head 1 game at a time. And whoever you're facing that week, that's all you're thinking about. If we got Stanford 1 week, we're not thinking about Cal the week after before we play Stanford. And that's when you know your schedule. In the UFC, all you know is the next guy you fight. Because whether you win or lose determines who you got after that. And really, there's nobody on the list for me. There's guys I'm watching, certainly, just because they're coming up the ranks the same way I am. I look at a guy like Alexander Gustafsson, who's just been on a tear, has only lost it to Phil Davis. I look at Phil Davis, who's, just super accomplished, and I've worked with him as well, and he's all that. You spar with the guy, you get to know how he is, and Phil Davis is the real deal. So I keep my eye on those guys just because of their talent level and just because of what the future may hold. But I don't have anybody that I'm picking out, oh, hey, Joe, let me get a fight with so-and-so. It's nothing like that at all. I got more than enough on my plate with Stephan Bonnar.
A memorable interview, to be sure. Now, Kyle did make weight for the fight, but he lost it to Stephan Bonnar. If you'd like to spend more time with Kyle in the tub, though, you can at MMAHeat.com. Don't go away. When we come back, meet the man that makes sure UFC fighters get to where they need to be. Karyn Bryant welcoming you back to MMA Heat. Still to come, the mental coach who gets Rashad Evans ready to fight. But right now, it's time to meet UFC talent coordinator Burt Watson. If you've ever watched a UFC weigh-in, then this man is very familiar to you. And if you've ever been to a fight, you're lucky enough to be backstage. When you hear his voice, that's when you know it's go time. He is responsible for getting the fighters where they need to be on time and without incident. And here is your chance to get to know one of the most loved guys in the UFC organization. So what was your first UFC show?
UFC 30. Wow. That was my first. That was and honestly, I met Dana when I did Costa-Zoo and Zab Judo. And someone introduced us, and Dana had a nice smile, a firm handshake, a sincere handshake. I'm from the street. I know a good handshake when it's sincere, when it's real. And he was starting this organization, and I really didn't know that much about MMA. I was familiar with Bruce Lee, but not MMA per se. And he said, yes, I'm starting this organization, and this was in November, I think, and then I got a call in February or March that there was going to be a show. And I was good to go because I wasn't really working at the time. I didn't have. So I did, and that was my first UFC was UFC 30.
And who was the main event? Do you remember?
No, but I remember Kevin Randleman and Coleman there, and Phil Baroni, and a little bit of a ruckus going on.
With Phil Baroni, what a surprise!
In the middle of the night, and at that point I was like, oh hell,
it's on.
What is this?
People will say things like Anderson Silva is overrated, or this and that. I mean, you've seen these guys grow. You've been around them. You've seen incredible knockouts, incredible submissions. Mm-hmm. Do you think Anderson is overrated? I mean, do you think any? What do you think when you hear the criticism that some of these fans give these guys?
Well, I think the criticism is justified from a fan because fans are allowed to have their own opinions in that point. But as far as Anderson Silva being overrated, I've seen these guys, MMA fighters and UFC fighters, progress at such a rate, at such technical skills as wrestling, grappling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, throwing punches, technically creating positions. I've seen that, and I've seen boxers at a high level, and I've seen these guys' skill levels, the things they have to learn to survive in that cage is unbelievable. And you know what? If someone's never done anything for more than 3 minutes, they're not going to know it.
Well, even before we came out to do this interview, we were just joking around with Quentin and Chick Congo and stuff. I mean, I know you've made some serious friends here in Serious Bond. They're some of the funniest guys I know. I mean, really. Just in general, I know that you got so many friends here.
You get what you give, and I give it from here because I feel it. They've all made me feel comfortable. They've given me a comfort level to give them a comfort level, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm surprised, how comical and funny these guys are, when they got to do that. Okay? Yeah. I mean, you know, that cage out there, it amazes me. And you know what? You would never know that they do what they do. And they all have their own different personalities, which everybody does. But someone in this profession to be as friendly, as fun-loving as they are, they're very, very outgoing to the fans. They love the fans, and you don't know what Rampage might say, or Chet Congo. You know, for that matter, you know, I get a few jokes every now and then out of Matt Hughes, Crow Cop. You know, they
really Crow Cop. Well, I saw him Punk Moro years ago, and that was hilarious.
Oh man, I mean, you know what? Nothing surprises me anymore because they all. George St. Pierre. Last night, I mean, he went through a routine imitating me.
Oh no!
You know.
Have you ever gotten the call at 4 in the morning, Bert? Bert, you got to help me out, Bert. I'm somewhere I shouldn't be, Bert. I'm in a situation, Bert. I need some money. Any of those? Yeah,
I've gotten a few of those.
Yeah.
You know, but I've gotten them because I asked for them. I tell them all the time, I don't care what it is, baby. If it's up here, I want it here.
Yeah.
I tell them if it's in here, I want it here. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you need me, you better call me. Well, I shouldn't have said that because they do. They call me, and they call me for anything. And it's a good thing because if I don't go, the wrong person is going to go. And then they're in trouble. I've gotten them out of trouble a few times.
Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Man, I could talk to Burt Watson for hours. And if you ever get the chance to talk to him, you have got to ask him about meeting President Obama. It is a great story. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll go to the gym with UFC lightweight Kamal Shalorus. You're watching MMA Heat. I'm Karyn Bryant. Still to come on the program, meet Al Fuentes. He's the guy who helps fighters get their minds right before a fight. But right now, it's time to head to the gym with Kamal Shalorus. This 155er had 3 wins and 1 draw in the WEC before moving over to the UFC. He has got an incredibly strong background in wrestling thanks to his upbringing in Iran. Well, we caught up with him over at Dynamics Martial Arts, where he trains with Anthony Hardonk, Jared Hammond, and Ronda Rousey to find out how this already very solid fighter plans to improve his technique. I do want to talk about your background. I think I read a fact that said you're one of only 2 Iranian fighters in the UFC.
Yes.
Is that true?
I'm only one.
Oh, the
Prince.
The Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
How did you get your start?
Well, I used to wrestle and all my life, and after that I see MMA and I love it. I try to change, learn some new skill, and start training with fighter in England. And actually Lee Mori, one of my good friends, so we used to train, and I like it. I say I'm gonna start doing MMA, and when I moved to Texas, and I just start fight. It's different world. You learn so much, and more multicultural. You meet so many people from different countries and become friends. You learn about the culture, you learn about the mixed martial arts, you learn about the respect, strategy, discipline. I love it. It's just so much like university.
So what brings you to Dynamics?
After my last fight, my coaches say they know some good spot that match my style, and then I need to improve my jiu-jitsu, my striking, and mix it together. So I supposed to go to different training camp, but when I came to Dynamics, really I love it. It's best skill and good coaches and good team.
Well, let's talk about what you're doing here, because when we were watching you train, Anthony was saying that you are kind of reinventing yourself, and that when you get back into the octagon, we're going to see a whole new Kamal. So what have you been working on, and what have you been trying to change?
Mostly I'm working my striking and using my wrestling and submission, everything. I used to just go fight and then but now I have a system. Everything's like keep the distance, feet work, and then keep everything.
So you think you were just more of a brawler?
Yeah, I used to. I have to be smart in my fight. I can't do mistake. So that's why I want to change my game plan and be more technical. And better for me, I don't get tired. I used to just like fight, just look like I'm fighting. No, I want to do better, more technical, be more safe. Without getting hit, I knock the people down.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Anthony. Why do you think he's a good instructor? Because I know, he obviously was a fighter in the UFC for a while, but not every fighter can teach. So what's great about Anthony and his techniques in teaching you?
Well, Anthony is I trained so many coaches, and he's best. And Anthony and Henry, these two is the really, really best coaches. And then they understand me, my body movement, my style, and everything's perfect. In 2 months, I have changed a lot. And when I spar even, I go back Texas to spar that used to spar guys. No, they are so easy for me. I see big difference already.
Right. Well, also, we should say that you've been training with Vladimir Matyushenko, Jared Hammond. I mean, just the fact that you're training with guys that much bigger than you has got to be helpful, yes?
Absolutely.
But can you kick Vlad's ass? I thought that's what I heard you say.
When he's asleep, yes.
That's good. It's a wise thing to say. You've seen Vlad's gun collection, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's always.
I don't mess with him.
No.
He's my friend.
Yes. You've got to respect the janitor. Yeah. I tell you, when you see Kamal in person, it's hard to remember he's a lightweight. He is a beast for the weight class. Always fun to watch as well. Well, stay with us. When we come back, we'll sit down with a mental coach who'll show us how to get our brains ready for a fight. You're watching MMA Heat. Karyn Bryant with you, and it is time now to sit down with Fuentes. He is a mental coach, the man behind MentalChamp.com, and he helps professional athletes and regular folks like you and me harness our brain power to increase performance. You can find him in Rashad Evans' locker room before a fight, as well as many other fighters. We sat down with him right here at PKG LA and heard how MMA fighters can focus their aggression before a fight. What's the main reason people come to you?
Usually, I get, if it's a UFC fighter, it's usually after a loss. And when I deal with them, the biggest thing is their mind's a mess, or they're struggling and they're having a hard time really managing their emotions. And where a traditional sports psychologist would kind of talk through that with them, my whole approach is completely different. I use two fundamental things to help create their stability with their emotions, which are really chemicals firing in the body, and it's the breathing and visualization, and that's the foundation for what I do. And the primary thing when they come to me is helping them to regulate those emotions that fire in the system, because they practice and they train and they go through camps, and when it comes time to fight, at that point, if they're not mentally in the right space, then it doesn't matter how much they trained or how good they are. If they're not firing the right chemicals or firing too many chemicals through the emotions, then they're not going to be able to perform as well.
It's interesting because one time Rashad actually told me that there were times in the past when he did everything he needed to do physically and everything, and he would get to the octagon and then go, I'm not in the mood to fight right now. I mean, and that's scary because there's obviously a lot to lose. So if you could talk about the relationship, like you said, between the emotions and the physicality, then how do you get people in the right place, in the right balance, at the right time?
Well, to me, it's a simple physical action. When you think about how we generate energy, the only time we really generate energy is when we sleep. And that's when we allow ourselves to relax enough to really produce the levels of healing that we need to recover for the next day. That whole process, to me, when I really looked at why we generate energy and what it does for us, it was fascinating to me. And so I'm like, if we can do that at night when we sleep in an involuntary state, why can't we do that during the day and then use that energy to do whatever we want? And in my case, it's helped the athlete perform better. And so in the case of Rashad and all my fighters, it's about helping them use the breath, which is what we do when we sleep, and helping them use the imagery, which is what we do when we sleep, to access that same energy. So, for example, no goosebumps.
I was going to say, wait if we can get a close-up, because I know this drill.
You start really learning how to breathe, and as you breathe, you associate that breathing with generating energy, and it just can light you up in that same way of flowing that energy through your system. It's a very powerful thing. Now that I can create that association, and that's all we're doing. Just like you learn how to punch, you drill and you practice muscle memory, and I know you know how to punch, so I'm not going to even try to test that out. But you have to learn how to train the body to access the mind, and vice versa. Because what's happening is if you're not breathing properly, then when the mind checks the body, if the breath isn't good, it's going to realize the body's in a distressed state, and so it's going to go into just a distressed red alert mode, and all these chemicals are going to fire. And when these chemicals fire, it pulls in all the resources from the body. The mind goes. That's why Rashad at times has felt like, man, I don't want to fight. And now he's so much more relaxed. He's so ready. He's so much put himself in that space that he's now ready because he's put himself there, and he can regulate the chemicals so none of that fight or flight syndrome comes in. And he's able to just really perform just like he would in practice. And it's understanding how to use your breath to anchor all of that and to flow it in and just dial in the performance.
So take us through fight week with you and a fighter.
Fight week, I usually show up on Tuesday when the fighters come in as well. And every night, typically as a wind down because of all the chaos and everything, it's helping them just gear down, slow down those RPMs. For whatever reason, we're just naturally going to fire a ton of chemicals into the system. And it's literally clearing out the chemicals in the system, regulating the body back down to a very, very centered state, and then it's going through the fight. And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday in the morning, we're really regulating everything and keeping it at these very calm levels. That way, if we're at the floor when the fighter is waking up on a Saturday morning and they're not already anxious and worked up, by the time they get to the fight, if we've hit them one more time, then they're at a normal level, a manageable level. So when they get in the ring, the chemicals are managed much better because they're not peaking already. And so now they get in the ring and they can regulate. And so every night we're doing visualization and breathing, and we're just bringing down all those chemicals firing in the system, clearing out any of the stuff that's gone on, things that have bugged them, just talking to them and helping them get stuff off their chest even, and just kind of going through and just lightening the load.
Al has a very calming presence. In fact, he was with us when we interviewed Kyle in the bathtub at the top of the show, and I think he coached him into one heck of an interview. He totally nailed it. Well, that does it for us here at MMA Heat. I want to remind you that you can see lots more interviews on MMAHeat.com. You can also join us in conversation on our Facebook fan page. You can follow MMA Heat and me on Twitter. I want to thank everybody here at PKG LA for their hospitality. I'm Karyn Bryant. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.